Hello, everyone. Welcome to the webinar today. We are thrilled to have you with us with DRai and their team to speak to you today about updating your legal strategy, particularly with AI. We've all heard about AI by now, right? But how can we actually use it in a way that is safe, effective, cost effective as well in any of our legal disputes that we may be having with tenants? And there are some other interesting ways as well that we could be using AI in the property management space. So we're going to be talking about some of those strategies, giving you some examples and case studies. Lots of time for Q&A there at the end to ask our experts your burning questions. So stick around. And also, of course, we're going to be providing everyone the recording. You'll also be getting the slides. Feel free to share the presentation with a friend or someone who might be interested in learning about this topic if they weren't able to show up today. We'll send you all of that tomorrow in the email, along with any other resources that we touch on today. So a little bit about our speakers. We have with us Brandon Hendrickson, the Director of Enterprise Sales. Hi, Brandon. Brandon will be managing the Q&A today and hopping in here and there, but our main speaker is David Lazarra, who is the founder and CEO of DRai Solutions. And for the past 40 years, so 4 decades, David has been founder, CEO, and owner of different businesses working with Fortune 100 companies. He's a leader who clearly defines strategy, communicates objectives, and has a long history of building and inspiring high-performance teams. And we're so glad to have someone with so much expertise here on the call. David, we're really excited to hear about everything that you all have to offer and how we can implement that into our property management practices. So from here, I'll hand it off to you to get started so we don't keep people waiting too long.
Thanks, Alexandra, and thanks for the opportunity. So 40 years of experience. Wow. So, with that, what you really get is you've already made a ton of mistakes. So you can appear like you know everything when you get to hit my age. But this is exciting to work in AI. It's exciting to work with people like Alexandra and Brandon. It keeps you vital, it keeps things going, new ideas, new ways to do things in the world. And that's one of the things we're going to talk about today is how to use AI and what it can do for you. And as Alexandra said, can you trust it? That's an important thing. And we're going to look at it through the lens of dispute resolution and the things that we think can come up for you folks out there in your property management and acting as landlords. I just want to start real quickly and say, we started this company. This is about my sixth company or seventh. And we started this one because it seemed that there was not an easy way to solve disputes that always seemed to favor law firms and big corporations. How can we get some justice and push it down to, association members like all of you in the AAOA? So we really came up with what we thought were very unique and innovative ways to handle a dispute, to make it very cost effective, very efficient, and to make it a non-legal process, to make it simple and understanding. And I think we were able to do that because I'm not a lawyer, and our chief programmer is not a lawyer. We have a couple lawyers involved, but we're not lawyers. The people that built this program aren't lawyers. So we built it from our standpoint and from our understanding. And I think that helps. And we've come up with something that's pretty simple and easy to use. So let's get started here. And of course, we've got to have, we're not a law firm, we're not a legal firm, and, this isn't legal advice. We're here to give you some information and some data, not to give you legal advice. So just take that for what it is. And then what are we going to talk about today? Well, here it is, kind of a straightforward introductions, which Alexandra took care of for us, a little quick AI overview, which will be high level. And if anybody wants to dive deeper into that, I'm glad to get on the phone with you and do it. I've done several AI companies and I'm fairly knowledgeable about it. So we're going to look at a couple of examples. What kind of tools do we have for AAOA members? Brandon's going to do a platform walkthrough for you, and then we'll certainly open it up to Q&A. So why don't we just get started here? And I think the first thing we're going to start with is, I don't know that you can go a whole day without hearing the term Gen AI or generative AI. And what is it really? Just simply put, it's just a new type of AI that can create content such as text, images, music. That might be questionable, but it even writes code. So it's pretty amazing in what it's done. It has taken the world by storm in probably the last year and a half. OpenAI introduced ChatGPT a couple of years ago, and I believe they were the fastest company to have 100 million users ever in history. So that's pretty astounding. And since then, there's about 27 good Gen AI companies out there. You probably know some of them: Gronk and Perplexity and Claude and Gemini. AlphaCode are just some of them. Some are better at some things than others and whatnot. But the basic thing is it's able to learn from patterns. So we got a little chart here. How do you go about doing this? How do you create Gen AI? Well, it springs from what you maybe hear sometimes referred to as LLM, which is a large language model. So to build a large language model, you collect a lot of data. So OpenAI has like 750 billion pieces of information in it, 750 billion. I think their newer one has even more. One of the problems is the more information you have in it, the more energy and power it takes to run it, and the more it costs. So if you're familiar with this field, in China, they came out with an AI or generative AI model about 3-4 months ago, and they said it's about 75% less to operate than something like Gen AI or OpenAI ChatGPT. And that's because it has 75% less information in it. So that's the reason why. So again, you've got to create or collect a tremendous amount of data. It's a long, timely, time-consuming process. And one of the places, and this is going to be important later on, one of the places they get the information is from open source information. And there's a danger in that. We'll talk about it later. So you collect all this information, you process all this information in your large language model, and then you build an actual model for what you want to accomplish. And it's very time consuming. It takes a lot of time. You got to train the machine to recognize patterns and whatnot, and what you want it to do. And then, like you would with anything else, you test it, you evaluate it, and you generally will build 3-4 models before you get to what you want. In our particular case, we're on our 5th model right now. And the goal is, which is the last arrow here, to constantly improve, to get better and get better and get better. So now that we've got Gen AI out there, and again, that's really a high level overview. And if you want more detail, glad to talk to you about it. But what exactly does Gen AI do? Alexandra, do you want to bring up? We had a few questions here we were going to ask. Who uses AI?
Yes, absolutely. Let me pull that up here real quick. Let's see, how do you currently use AI in your work or personal life? If you can put it in the chat, how do you currently use AI in your work or personal life? Or optionally, you can also put it in the poll. Either place will work. So let us know how you are using it. I can start by telling you all, I use it every day. I think I use it to brainstorm ideas. That's a big one. But definitely tell us here how you currently use AI in your work or personal life. Again, you can put it in the chat or you can put it in the poll question. So waiting here for people to type it in. I know it's a little longer than just a multiple choice, so I might have to give you all a little bit of time. Let me go ahead and start to see what we're getting.
It's interesting, the people who use it and how they use it. A lot of people use it just to get ideas. They'll pose a question. So if you use Google, the first answer up now is generative AI from them. And you can ask a question or explore a topic, and it gives you different ways maybe to look at it or think about it in what you want to do. And then oftentimes it'll give you the article off to the side if you want to follow up and read more in depth, which is kind of an interesting thing to do.
It does make it a lot easier. Let me go ahead and just end the poll here and look at some of the results. We'll pop it out here in another screen. So we have here, they use it for medical concerns. Just about every question I have, to find information, to increase efficiency and value. I do not use it. Interesting, not using it yet. Simply for looking up details. I use it to write letters and memos to my tenants. I also use it to create and update forms. I don't use it, I try not to. We don't for information, compose, or I guess composing, probably emails, I imagine, every day, everything, some personal ideas, learning for business. I use it to draft pleadings, letters, legal notices, brainstorming marketing ideas, and campaigns. I use ChatGPT for all kinds of questions and brainstorming. I open the app right after I open my email. I ask ChatGPT or Grok to answer questions and help me make a decision. I don't know if I am using AI. Interesting.
Interesting. You know, if you go to the electronic show in Las Vegas, which about 250,000 people attend, it's amazing nowadays. You can buy a hairbrush with AI. It'll tell you how many strokes you've done and how many you should do. You can buy a toothbrush with AI. And basically, you know, I don't know that you really need the brush to count the number of strokes, but you'll pay 25% more to get that AI benefit out of it. So it's interesting, but it really does show up everywhere anymore. Okay. Slides don't want to advance. Okay, give me a second here. See, we're AI experts, but we can't work the slideshow, folks. Let me just escape for one. Good, it's frozen. There we go. Okay, so just simply stated, what does generative AI do? You know, it enables computers to perform complex tasks. It recognizes patterns. It deciphers and responds to language. It learns from feedback. That's really important. So there it is. It's mimicking something that humans do, doesn't it? It learns from feedback. In what we do, and many other companies, what they do is they have what they call human expert guidance. And that's sort of a validation and verification process to where as you're using the AI, especially if you're going into a new field or a new sector, there's a human in the loop who can look at the answers and then check those answers before it's ever given. And in that feedback loop trains the machine of what is acceptable and what's not acceptable. And in that way, it improves its accuracy and its performance over time. So just boil down to basics. That's what it can do for you. And examples of AI in everyday life. Well, there's a ton of stuff that we touch every single day, and some of it we're really not even aware of it. You know, we deal with chatbots all the time, translation, spam filters. I don't have to read this, you can see it all. Autonomous vehicles, I think the jury is still out on that and how well it works. We've got some companies out there testing that in a number of cities. I attended an AI conference on motor vehicles a couple months ago, and they said to have that perfected probably would be at least 2 more years to where it was completely safe. Healthcare diagnostics, it's as accurate as a human in reading x-rays now. In a lot of these things, you know, the AIs, especially in healthcare diagnostics, you know, in critical functions, it's not going to be the final voice. It's going to look at something, render an opinion, and in a lot of ways, that just gives you and the doctor a starting point of things to consider, look at, and whatnot. So it's in other cases. I'm sure all of you can think of some other stuff, and you brought it up when Alexander did the little poll on how do you use this. So you know, there are some problems, as I said earlier. You know, do you trust AI? And that's a big thing. And we've all read articles about AI making up information, especially in the legal field. There's been probably 5 or 6, maybe more law firms that have been fined anywhere from $30,000 to $50,000 because they came in and they used AI, and the AI completely invented instances of case law and other things, and it wasn't a pretty picture. And so why does that happen? Once again, let's go back to people who are open sourcing. When you use open source data from the internet or the web, that data is not curated. That means nobody's checked it. So what's really true and what isn't true? What's put in there that has a lot of bias in it? a lot of negative attitude in it. So, that then skews the output. And why do they use open source? Because they need a vast supply of information to be able to answer all of the questions everybody comes up with. So it's kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't. We built our model very differently than that. So we have very strict standards, and we're fortunate because we're working with legal tools. So we're working in a specific space. We don't have to be good at 20 and 25 different sectors in what we do. So we only use closed data sets. So this is all information that's been curated, verified, it's factual data. We do a semantic search, which is basically what Google does, but we also do a contextual search. So even if a meaning is inferred, we'll understand that and be able to find it and be accurate and not be thrown off. We automate workflows, and that means that there's a layer to what we do. We have layer after layer after layer, which continually verifies what we're putting out. And we have a final step. We validate the information before we output it. So any information that goes out to a user has been validated by the system. And again, as I mentioned earlier, we can bring in expert guidance to review, analyze, suggest improvements, and look at what we're doing. So just, the opposite of all of that is we don't use open source, we don't use non-curated or any information that can't be verified as factual, and we don't use any information from the internet. And that helps us have a really high level of accuracy. We've processed hundreds of cases and disputes, and we have yet to have a hallucination. So we're proud of that fact. And, we continually work towards doing that. It's not, you do it once and everything's fine. No, it's a nonstop effort to mitigate any risk that might happen. So, how did we come about building this product of ours, building this platform? We really took automated workflows on the one hand, and then we combined it with AI so we could get the best of both worlds. And the goal was to just build a platform that would be neutral. You say a neutral platform, okay, that's great. So you don't have any bias. It's literally and legally by a number of cases that have been run through the courts, you really can't have something, you can't say that you have absolutely no bias. And the reason for that is when programmers are writing the code, everybody has some bias. And that does and can enter into your work. And there have been court cases based on that. And you cannot claim that you have absolutely no bias. But we work towards that on a continual basis in all areas that are measured for bias. And we give it every single effort we have. It's significant effort and amount of money we spend on that. So we have a neutral platform. It's the only way we can be fair. And then the cool thing about what we do is, unlike the court system, unlike lawyers, unlike having to go that route for a dispute, our platform's available 24/7, 365 days a year. You can do it when it's convenient and easy for you. So that's a little bit about how we built this, what we do, maybe just a quick big overview of generative AI specifically, and some of the pros and cons of it. And one of the things that keeps being brought up is when you're working on certain things, and when you're working in the healthcare field, if you're in the legal field, if you're in an area where you have to have precision, then oftentimes what generative AI can do is get you to a starting point faster, get you to a point to where it gives you information, but you still need a human to look at it and make a decision. So, this isn't here to replace humans. Will it ever replace humans? Not in my lifetime, which may not be saying much. But it's convenient, it's easy, and it's neutral. And we will talk a little bit more about how we do what we do. So what we're going to do now, we're going to look at a landlord-tenant dispute. And this is something that probably will hit home, and all of you maybe have been in this kind of a situation. And then with Alexandra's help, we're going to do a quick poll here. So let me just set this up. Here's the information. The landlord rented a house to a tenant with a start date of October 2nd. He collected $20,500 security deposit. and that's 3 times the rent, 3 times $6,500 a month. The tenant, on their part, they never even occupied the house. The check they wrote for the first month's rent bounced. How do you like that? And then they gave notice on September 29th that they would not be occupying the house. So where did that leave us? Well, based on that information, the landlord claimed that the tenant breached the contract. Why? They failed to pay the first month's rent. He claims they didn't give 30 days notice. Notice I said he claimed, or she claimed, that they did not give 30 days notice. They did not return the keys and access devices, and they refused to pay the insufficient funds fee. So at that point, what happened? Well, it kind of escalated. The landlord refused to return the $20,500 security deposit. In addition, he claimed that there were $14,107 in additional damages and failed to provide an itemized detail of what those charges were made up of. And he leased the house to a new tenant on October 3rd. Remember, the original tenant was going to take possession October 2nd, and he got it rented out on October 3rd. All right, the tenant on their part claims the landlord acted in bad faith by not returning the deposit and not sending an itemized list of deductions within 30 days. So the question here is, it's time to vote. There's the circumstances, and who do you think won, the landlord or the tenant?
Okay, I have the poll question launched, so get your answers in. Is it the landlord or the tenant who won here in this case? I'm going to wait until we get at least a little more than half of you to respond. So quick, put your answers to the question here, and I will reveal the results in just a moment. All right.
Yeah, we won't go into the laws, the actual laws. No need to read those to you. I think it's just interesting who won, and then we'll talk a little bit about how maybe there could have been a different result.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share the results here with you all. So it looks like 66% of people say the tenant and 34% said the landlord should have won.
Okay, well then the 66%, you are very astute. Yes, the winner is. Oh, you know what happens? Okay, I got to get rid of that. Okay, so when like Alexander, I figured out when you put something up on the screen.
You have to restart the presentation.
Yeah, I got to restart it. Come on.
No worries. Joanne says, in California, the landlord is usually the loser. And Leslie says, it really depends on the state, county, and the judge. And I would say, yes, the judge has some say for sure. You can't really predict that with AI. They are human after all. But let's see here, continuing back with the presentation, some of the details. Good points, though, everyone.
Yeah, in California. I lived in California my whole life up to 3 years ago. So yes, it's tough to be a landlord in California. Well, man, we are stuck, folks.
Are you able to exit out? Oh, there we go. Yay.
And the winner is the tenant, which you all already knew, but I'm just thrilled I got to advance one slide. So the court ruled the landlord has to pay the tenant the entire security deposit plus $100 multiplied by 3 for a total of $60,750. This case actually took place in Texas. And they also had to pay reasonable attorney fees. And his claim for $14,107 was denied. Now, what could have he done to maybe the landlord, that 30 some odd % of you who said, well, the landlord ought to win. Well, what could he maybe have done to get a better idea of how this was going to be decided? So this is actually a page from our platform. And one of the things we give you is once we've, input all of the information, contracts, evidence, what's your story, what images, whatever there may be, all of the information, we summarize all that, and then we collect, and then we'll go out and we will go through case law. So what case law is, it's simply a judicial decision by a judge. And those decisions are called case law, and they're used in court all the time to set precedents on how things will be decided. So we look if whatever state the dispute takes place in, we search all the case law for that state, and then we search all federal case law, which might override that. And we will then pull up summaries, and I didn't put all of that here. I just give you an idea of what's included. Then we pull up summaries of the case law. So you can see here, the big deal is prevailing party, tenant, 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 tenant. And in these different 5 cases, you can see, how much they were awarded, from a low amount of $500 to 34,000. So, if the landlord had this to look at, chances are he would say, ooh, the tenant won in each one of these. Then maybe I don't really have a leg to stand on. Maybe I should consider giving her $20,500 back, and I would have saved $40,250. So that's one of the ways that this can give you some help here. So let's look at, and this product that we're talking about here, this is called our matter analyzer. And you go, what in heaven's name does that mean? In a law firm, a matter is a case. Anything that comes in the door is referred to as a matter. So we really just take that information and we analyze it. And so what does that really mean? It's really a very early way to evaluate a case, to quickly evaluate a case, and you can literally do it in a couple of minutes. So you can assess the strength, the viability of a potential dispute or claim. So you can quickly decide, what do you want to do? Do you want to pursue it? Do you want to mediate? Do you want to escalate it? Do you want to negotiate and get out of it as quickly and inexpensively as you can? Or see if you can just close it. So that's one of the products that we have available for the folks at AAOA. We have another one, and it's a little bit more complex, and that's dispute resolution. So this is an entire process to walk the 2 parties through a dispute. So the party that files the mediation for the mediation is known as the claimant, and the person they file it against is known as the respondent. And what our platform does, no humans here, AI does this. And AI walks you both parties through step by step the process. It's done, and we'll show you some examples of some of the forms here in a minute. But it's done in a very simple way, easy to understand. It's very intuitive. We've got pop-up instructions along the way. We've got written instructions. We've got videos. So it's pretty easy and intuitive to use. Again, it's very neutral. And what happens is, each party inputs all of their information, contracts, disputes, check records, images, maybe there's water damage. All of that goes in, and then the platform will summarize all of that information. And it'll give you a summary in non-legal terms. So both you as a claimant and the respondent can understand what they're faced with and where they want to go. And then we'll show you what happens from there. But you can then carry it into, we've got what we call a negotiation chat room, where the 2 parties can go back and forth and make offers and counter offers and work on terms. Then we also can produce a settlement, and that settlement can be signed by both parties on the platform. So it's pretty straightforward and easy to use. So, and the other part of it is it's very cost efficient. So let me just show you. We did a survey of about 120 companies across the United States. We did a couple, at least one in the smaller states and more in the larger states. What's the cost of mediation? So this is an average cost for and this is not for a multi-million-dollar international mediation, of course. So, but the average cost for a one-day mediation in the United States is $2,000 per party. So that's $4,000 right there. Versus the cost of the DRA mediation for AAOA members, which is $99 per dispute. And you don't have to pay a monthly fee or anything. This is per dispute. You only pay for it if you need it and you use it. Okay. So there's also average cost to litigate a contract dispute. So, and we'll talk about who would you have a contract dispute with? Well, I think there's maybe a lot of people, and I'm sure you'll think of even more. But, breach of contract litigation, you got attorney fees, court filing fees, discovery, deposition, court reporter, mediation, and arbitration, which could be mandatory. and then a trial. And while all this is going on, you could be losing money in other ways. And there's also your time away from the business to do this. But the average cost here in the United States is $10,000 to $20,000. So again, you can use this process that AAOA has negotiated for you, which is $99. And again, it's just per use. If you don't use it, you don't have to pay anything. So, you're okay. So, what does this mean for AAA customers? Well, it means that it gives you a way to save time and money by avoiding expensive legal fees, increases your efficiency and your effectiveness. It also helps preserve business relationships. What we do is very non-threatening. It's non-confrontational. The parties never meet face to face. And so, it may be you may want to preserve relationships with certain people. It's not unusual to have a dispute in business, and it doesn't have to be solved in an acrimonious way. So this gives you an option to try to solve this in a non-confrontational manner, and it's also confidential. Mediation is confidential. Or any activity in court is public information. So good stuff to know. So how tough is this to do it and process a dispute? One of the key things here is list DRAI in your contract and agreements as the company of record to resolve disputes. So when people sign your contract, they have to do that. They're legally bound to do that. And then you go on our platform, you submit the dispute. We've got an intuitive intake form. We collect all the necessary details. We're going to review your details and summarize all that information. Then we're going to, it'll go over to the respondent, and in that they then put their information in. And again, it's a lot easier to get them to put their information in if you have the contract clause. They've got to do it, or they're again in breach of contract just for that one clause alone. Again, we talked already about you can negotiate in a secure private chat room, and then we put an agreement together and it's signed electronically. So pretty straightforward, really just 4 easy steps here. And you go, okay, so what does a contract clause look like? Well, it's something like this. This is just an example for you. We don't have to read it, but it just states that we are the company of record. This is how you have decided to solve disputes or claims, and it'll be submitted to an online AI dispute resolution platform administered by us. So a lot of people, interesting point, our legal name's Dispute Resolution AI, but my goodness, that's a mouthful to say over and over and over. So we just cut it down to DRAI, which most people call us Dr. AI, which probably is a whole lot better. Kind of a fun ring to it, Dr. AI. So anyways, this is an example contract clause. You may want to check with your lawyer for specific wording. We have a number of people who go ahead and use this in what we do. So what do you use these legal tools for? Well, possible use for AAO members, and this is Brandon and I brainstorming based on a lunch with Alexandra and Alan, and gleaning as much as we could about all of the things you people face, and I'm sure there's even more than this. So we're not going to read through this, but you can look at it. I believe when I did a little research on this, security deposits were a big deal. Repairs were a big deal, and whatnot in what you do. So those are just landlord tenant things on the left there. On the right, we come across things. You've got a ton of service providers to keep your properties, looking good, up to code. I looked at one of your webinars and was really interested. It's fun to learn about other things. Dr. Balcony, and based on a balcony collapsing a number of years ago, some people dying. And so new laws were put into effect. So that was interesting. So you've got plenty to worry about and a lot of liability out there to be concerned with. So what we're going to do now, if you're tired of listening to my voice, then we're going to give you a break and you're going to get to listen to Brandon, who is going to give you a look at our platform. We're not going to go through the whole thing in boring detail. We're just going to give you a little bit of an idea, a taste of what it looks like and feels like, for you. Brandon, you all set, man?
Yes, sir. So one of the questions that came up in the chat was, you can't really force your tenants to use this. unless you have the clause in there. But I wanted to point out, if you've signed a contract lately with any company, there's always some type of mediation or arbitration clause in there, how you're going to resolve a dispute before it goes to court, things like that. So it's very common for all businesses to have some kind of clause in their lease about how disputes are going to be resolved. So I just wanted to point that out. That was a good question.
Hey,
Um,
Brandon. Hey, Brandon.
yes,
The other thing too is I don't know if you all do terms of service or anything like that, but what a lot of companies, what a number of companies and associations we work with, what they do is they just send out an email to everybody that is currently a tenant or uses their services or products and says our terms of service have changed and this is one of the things we're doing now.
yep. That way you don't have to require everybody to sign a new lease just because you're going to do a different process. Yeah, that's a good point. Thanks, David. In general, the process of using our platform is very simple. It's just like filling out a form. In this case, it just guides you step by step, but this is where you're going to put all of the information that's important. If you do have a lease, if you have any type of contract or letters back and forth, images, our platform can actually analyze images and create summaries of damage or anything like that. Financial records, witness statements. So it's very wide and it allows a lot of different types of documents to make sure that you get all of the information in there for the system to do that's most accurate summary and retrieve the most accurate case law possible.
And then these little thingies right here, these little icons, if you click on that, it'll explain what's supposed to go in this box. And you can see they're all throughout this. So that's why it's kind of easy to figure it out.
Yeah, it's that part's not the hard part at all. That's the easy part. Then, if you're the claimant, and most landlords would likely be the claimant in the situation, it shows you a summary. This is a very low lift. It's not legalese, it's not complicated, and it shows all of the evidence and documents that you've uploaded. And because this is a dispute resolution platform, it does require you to kind of start with some type of settlement offer. So, knowing what you have received back from the system, you're going to offer this to your tenant or to the vendor that you're having the dispute with. Hey, you owe me X amount of money, but I'll settle this right now for less. You can pay me in payments. There's going to be an interest charge or not. It's very flexible, very, very low lift, and it's not threatening either. It's basically a way to say, let's preserve this relationship. Maybe they're even going to stay in the home or the apartment that you have. And you really want to make sure that you handle them with kid gloves so that they don't destroy things and move out and leave you in a lurch.
And then just to tag on there, and before you make your offer, you really might want to run the dispute through the matter analyzer to give you an idea what is your chances of prevailing. And if you even want to read up on some of the other cases to see what really pertains to your case, but then that can help guide you as to making an offer that is going to be fair and more than likely accepted.
Absolutely. So after you have all that done, you'll see a list of the case law that's been selected because it most aligns in your state and federal cases with the information that you've given it. So when you're doing your intake form, you want to give it as much as possible, as many data points, just like David said, because it's AI, it needs as many data points as possible to come up with really sound recommendations and sound, I apologize, not recommendations, sound cases that match your situation. And then what will happen once you've completed all your pieces, the respondent will get almost an identical view. It will have the summary, it'll have the settlement offer, it will show them the case law as well. So if you have already checked through the matter analyzer that your cases are trending your way, hey, it looks like I might win this, the respondent will see that as well. There are case law in California. Yeah, every single state does produce case law, and we update that. I want to say almost weekly. David, is it weekly that we do the updates?
We do it monthly.
Monthly. Okay, so it's pretty regular updates. Now, the respondent has to decide, are they going to settle and accept your settlement offer? Are they going to negotiate, or are they going to dispute the claim altogether? They say, hey, I don't want to have anything to do with this process, and they're just going to dispute it altogether. So depending on if you have the clause in your contract or your lease, is going to maybe produce a different result. But in order for them to participate, they'll have to select one of those three options. And then here's where the negotiation happens. It shows the summary, the current settlement offer, and it's essentially a secure chat back and forth. And you can do this in real time, or it'll ping the other party when someone has made an offer or a counter offer in the chat room. The key here is though we want to be friendly, so there are some limitations of what can be put in there. It's very secure. There's no other access to it except for the people who are registered in the claimant or respondent. It does allow for attorneys to participate if you want them to. So you can add an attorney to your file in a specific case if you like. Depending on the situation, some people prefer to do that anytime they have a legal situation as well. But this chat room is very easy to use. And then once both parties have agreed, they can sign it, and then it will create a settlement document for both parties before the settlement is finalized.
One of the things we tried to do to make this easy is on any of these summary pages, the negotiation chat room page, the settlement agreement page, we always have in the right-hand corner, here is all of the claimant's information, everything that the claimant entered. So you don't have to navigate away from this page and then try to get back to it and then start the whole process over. That nobody wants to have to do that. So all the claimant information is here, all the respondent information is here. So it makes it very, very easy. And again, you're able to, either, it was on one of the previous pages. You don't have to finish it if you're a single mom and you got to get laundry done and get dinner on the table and help your kids with their homework. You can just click, I'll finish later. And then when you come back, it'll pick up where you left off. Or you can just submit it if you're done and ready to move forward.
Excellent. So I wanted to show how Matter Analyzer, we've talked about it a little bit. It essentially mimics the first part of the dispute resolution process, where you enter the information and decide, do I want to file a dispute? Do I want to pursue this? And actually, it's going to be worth it for me to take this dispute to court? Or do I think, based on the case law that it's showing me in my state, maybe I don't want to do this. Maybe I was talking to a group of realtors out in Georgia, and one of them said, sometimes, unfortunately, I am in the wrong, and it's to my benefit to settle as quietly and quickly as possible. And so using the Matter Analyzer will give you a really good idea before you start spending money and before you start pursuing a dispute. Is this going to be worth it in the end for me to pursue? So the Matter Analyzer is the yellow part. You can see in the top left corner, there's blue and yellow. But you do that first to see, how do I want to handle this dispute? And if it looks like you want to win or you want to settle really quickly, then you can file the dispute with the blue button right on top, and it's quick and easy in the platform just like that.
Okay, Brandon, thanks a lot. So hopefully that gives you just a little bit of an idea of the simplicity of the platform and a little bit of an idea on how it works. When we were working on this, because myself and Peter, who's our tech guy, didn't have a legal background, we depended a lot on getting advice from judges, legal experts, mediators, and other people. And we thought we would get a lot of pushback that they wouldn't really like this, but that didn't happen. They all said that this is a really transformative solution whose time has come. And they said in 5 years, this is what everybody will be doing. We're just maybe a little ahead of the curve, we hope. So that's our hope. And you're thinking, well, I don't know, is this right for me? Should I try this? Should I not try this? And I believe we sent out through AAOA an offer a little bit ago. Here I got, oh, here we go. We're hung up again. Oh, wait a minute. There we go. Okay. So in case you missed it, Alexandra, did you want to talk on this, or you want me to talk about it first?
Yeah, you can go ahead and take it from here. And if you want, you could get back on camera as well, so we could see you again. If totally optional, but
Okay, well, let me just cover this. So we've partnered with AAOA to do a 30-day trial, for just $5. And in that 30-day trial, you can use Matter Analyzer all you want, any number of times you want, and you can run through a dispute. So $5, and again, unlimited use of the Matter Analyzer and of the dispute. And the reason we did that is, and I believe one of the reasons that we were brought on board is to try and maybe supply some information and bring everybody, give everybody a better understanding of where AI is, how AI is used, what you can use AI for, what maybe to shy away from. AI still is not very good at making decisions, and runs into a lot of trouble there. And so we're just trying to make this easy for everybody to give it a try and see how it works. Okay, let's go back and we'll get out of this. Maybe, maybe not.
yeah, and just so everyone knows, the offer here, we will be emailing it to you all tomorrow as well. So if you want to take advantage of signing up for that, you're going to get a link in the email. And we also would, I have another question here if you'd like me to launch it, David. They're also offering the opportunity for you all to get a consult. So if you want to actually talk to somebody about a particular case, you certainly can with the Dr. AI or the DRai team. That would be a great way to get started if you want to say yes there. And then, like I said, we'll send you the offer and the link to claim that tomorrow if you do want that. And also, of course, the recording and slides, just to reiterate that, as we usually do, that's going to be in there as well. So make sure to keep an eye out for that. I think we might have, did we lose David here? Is he back? There he is. Hi. All right, we'll wait for David to share the screen here. And we had another poll question as well, which is, how confident are you that your current process for resolving tenant and vendor disputes is cost effective? Very curious to see here what your answers are going to be for this. Are you concerned at all, or are you very confident? So go ahead and put in your answers here. We'll leave that up on the screen for just a bit. And we did get a couple of questions, Brandon. Maybe you can help us out with this about, well, we already kind of answered, I think, the cost of simply analyzing. So $5 for the first month. What can they expect after the first month?
Yeah, that's a great question. So right now, the deal that we've negotiated with your member organization is for $39 a month. And that's unlimited use of the Matter Analyzer. And I understand that might not make sense if you only have one dispute a month or not very often. But from what I understand, a lot of you own, a large amount of doors through multifamily establishments, then you might have little things come up a lot that you have questions about. And this is just a really good way to figure out what action to take based on the things that you have. So we think it's fair. It's definitely a lot lower than we charge normally. And I wanted to point out, because there is a question here in the chat about other types of contracts, if it's not landlord tenant based. And we do have actually a division of our company that works with law firms specifically. And so our case law is not limited to landlord tenant law. It does every legal situation that you can think of. If it's out there as case law, we have it curated into our system. It's not from the World Wide Web, so you don't have to worry about accuracy there. So if you have other things going on in your life that require dispute resolution, you can certainly use the platform for that as well. That was a great question.
Yeah, we
Yes.
can resolve literally any kind of dispute.
That's amazing. I was talking to someone yesterday actually who had a really similar security deposit question as the one that you put up there, David. It's interesting. And then they asked me as well, can I do this for commercial lease too? I said, yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
That is, I know some of our members have a mixed portfolio. So certainly that's another way you could use it as well. I'm going to share the results of the poll here, which is how confident are you? We only have 6% saying very confident. 42% somewhat, 42% not confident, so kind of split there. And 9% of you are concerned. So we'll go ahead and stop the share. I hope this is giving you all a tool to talk to, or to really, consider here for those of you that don't have a solution or feel confident about it. David is saying, is there a customer person service help for strategy? So I did pull up that poll earlier if you wanted a consult, but we will also put that contact information in the follow-up email as well. So you can reach out to someone on the team if you want to talk to anyone about the actual product itself. So David will send you an email. Everyone's getting an email automatically as usual. David, did you want to share your screen again, or are we in the Q&A thick of it here?
We're in Q&A land.
Okay. Cleo says, is the $39 per month cancelable at any time?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's no contract. So, even like if you had a lot of disputes that you wanted to work through really quickly, you could sign up for a month. And then if you had a drought, I mean, David might not like me saying this because, he's the CEO, but there's no penalty for canceling or restarting at this point.
Right.
No, I'm glad you said that because aren't we all sick and tired of paying for stuff we never use? I mean,
subscriptions.
that's why we did the usage-based thing for the dispute resolution. And we think it's the only fair way to do it because you're not going to have one every single week.
Right. And to clarify Jennifer's question in the Q&A, so no membership fee, $99 per dispute, or for the matter analyzer, then it's $39 per month. First month is $5 if you want to just try it out as an AUA member. Okay.
Right.
Glad to clear that up. The $5, what does the $5 get you? So that's the matter analyzer platform.
The matter analyzer platform and one dispute. You can run one dispute resolution through.
And one dispute. That's amazing.
And there's more.
And there's more. And it's not a limited time offer, everyone, but when you need it, it's going to be there. So save that email because you will definitely want to have that later. David saying is, we answered this. How extensive is your platform, right? Can they do partnerships, disputes, that kind of thing? Yes, right? Any kind of dispute. And Mark is asking if our tenant or property owner contracts are required to have a binding AI arbitration clause.
So I would say it's not required. It just really helps. So one of the things that we were focusing on here is having a strategy. So if you're not really sure how to handle disputes, putting an arbitration clause like that, even if it's not with DRai, what having an arbitration clause is like a plan. This is how we're going to handle a dispute if it comes up. So not having one is definitely a way to go about it, but it does create doubt and uncertainty for both you and the tenant. So I would recommend maybe rewriting your lease and including some type of dispute resolution clause in there. The one that we've given you seems to work really well, but definitely if you have any concerns, check an attorney in your state.
Beautiful. Rose was asking also if these case laws are in California.
Yes, every single state.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yes,
David.
and there's so many new California laws, by the way. So this is absolutely helpful. I had a question on a webinar I did for a different group yesterday, and they said, after I told them all these things about tenant screening, they're like, where can I go to just know what I don't know? Because if I feel like, there's so many new laws, is there something that I'm missing and not doing, and I just don't know about it? So I would say something like this might actually be quite helpful to sort of dig into some of those new laws that maybe, a lot of landlords don't even know about yet that were passed in California this year. There were dozens of laws.
Okay, just a point here. So if there's city or state laws, we're not going to have those. Okay. We will have case law. So things that have gone to court and been decided on, that's what we'll have. That's the case law.
Okay. Well, that's definitely helpful as well, right? Because that's what judges are using to make their decisions.
Yeah, yeah. And lawyers, that's what, they bring up the precedent based on this and this. We should win.
Okay. David asked, is your service primarily response or answering your questions from case law, or a combo with AI ideas?
The AI is, at this point, is not going to offer you suggestions. Okay. Down the road, yeah. In fact, down the road, one of the things we learned from talking to a lot of skilled mediators who do big cases is they said, you often reach an impasse where neither side wants to budge. So the mediator makes a proposal and says, based on my experience, based on the laws, based on all of these things, here's what's fair. And they said that it's interesting because the parties are sort of emotionally involved on that day. Nobody really accepts his proposal or her proposal at the time. But they said usually 75% of the time the proposals are accepted and deals are done. And a few days later. So we're working right now, and hopefully in the next 90 days we'll have this. If the two parties are at an impasse, then we will take the facts of the case and we will propose a settlement. They don't have to accept it, but we will propose it.
That's
based on
valuable.
the merits of the case and all of the input. And then the final thing we want to add, so, let's just say in the instance we gave, the landlord said, you owe me $14,107, but he didn't give an itemized list of that. We want our program to come back and say, hey, landlord, if you number one, you need to give her the list within 30 days and it has to be itemized. And if you produce that, that makes your case stronger. So those are improvements that we're working on that we think would help people and make it an even better tool.
Absolutely. Yeah, that'd be great. Joanne asked, and I think you covered this, but I want to make it clear. Can I use the matter analyzer before starting the process of mediation?
Yeah, and that's how most people use it. They use it first and then make a decision, like Brandon said, do I politely and quickly try to get out of this because I'm not going to win, or I have a heck of a case. And we have some people that even say, I have such a strong case and there's a high dollar amount here, I'm going to litigate.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really helpful. And I believe this might be the end here of the Q&A. I don't see any other questions coming up. We're at the top of the hour anyway, so good timing. You all had great questions and really here a new tool for you all to consider. So again, we'll send you the email tomorrow with the offer and also the slides, the recording, and everything else that you might need from this presentation to take any action. So keep an eye on that. And of course, an invite to our next webinar coming up soon. So keep an eye out for that. Thank you so much for coming on and talking to the group, Brandon and David, getting lots of thank yous in the chat. Very informative. Prima says great price. So very happy here with these comments. So glad that you all got something out of it. We will definitely be in touch with you tomorrow. And yeah, thank you again.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you for your time and the opportunity.
Of course. Take care.